You are now entering the Take-Up, place together when the film is over. I'm your host, Joshua Ray, and I'm here with my co-host. That's the managing editor of the Take-Up.com. That's Andrew Wyatt. Greetings, Andrew Wyatt.
Hello, Joshua Ray, and I just want to let you know that I know your secret.
Yeah, he has buzzed my head, and we are 3 days away from the lunar eclipse. We'll see what happens. On today's episode of the Take-Up, we're talking Yorgos Lanthimos' word that's hard to say, Bugonia. Then we'll have one more thing. Okay, so I'm actually a couple minutes late. I'm sorry, but I was finishing Save the Green Planet, the text for Yorgos Lanthimos' Bugonia, the film that we're talking about today. I pause and avoid stuttering through all that because I likely will. Yorgos Lanthimos is hard for me to say. Anyway, hi, Andrew.
Hello. What did you think of Save the Green Planet? It's been a while since I've seen it.
Well, it's certainly not fair to it for me to have seen Bugonia less than a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Bugonia is such a more interesting film, and yet they're very similar. It's a tone thing. Save the Green Planet is very much of its time.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like, this wasn't, I guess, really a movement, but, the label Tartan Asian Extreme, it feels like that, but it feels like, I don't know, an anime version of Bugonia with like touches of Saw. But then also like the more extreme emotionalism of Park Chan-wook, like in his Revenge trilogy, those moments. But it's all packed together. And yes, it is virtually plotted the same as Bugonia.
There's some gender swaps and some other
There's
situational swaps.
of like characters and whole hog plot removal, different strands. You know what, Andrew, why don't you talk for a little bit? You want to set up Bugonia for us?
Yeah, so for those who aren't aware of it or haven't seen Save the Green Planet, this is I think the best way to describe this film to sort of a virtual viewer is to describe the situation. Like the scenario is the hook, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we have a man named Teddy, played by Jesse Plemons, who lives in a sort of unspecified small town somewhere in America.
Georgia. I thought it was kind of specific.
I don't recall. Okay, I'm already being derailed here. I don't recall there being a specificity to the setting.
I'm pretty sure maybe producer Ethan, who saw it with us, yes or no, Georgia, nod head, shake head. He doesn't seem to remember. He's looking it up. All right. Very good. Very good. Thank you.
At any rate, he's in a small town, right? Somewhere in America.
That would give you the vibe.
Yeah, and it's a house. I get the impression that it was like the house he grew up in. So it's this older house. He's now living there with his cousin, who is neurodivergent. And when the film opens, they're training for something. They're prepping for something. And we don't really get a sense until like about 20 minutes into the film what exactly their plan is, because they're sort of talking around it. But Teddy is talking about these sort of nefarious actors. And the way he's talking about it is sort of in a general way that could be characterizing anything. He could be talking about, the American wealthy class. He could be talking about CEOs. He could be talking about the elites, the people that control everything sort of behind the scenes. Ethan saying that it was shot in Georgia, but it may not have specifically said so in the film. Maybe
a license plate. License plates, I think, is where
production design details.
Yeah.
I think that I always put up by like the sheriff. There's a sheriff deputy who shows up, and his car very generically says "County Police" without any other identifiers. It's vague, but I think it is salient that this is an American story. So it's been very, I think, smartly adapted to speak to something very specific going on in America at this moment. And what's revealed is that Teddy and his cousin Don are planning to abduct the CEO of a major biomedical company, international conglomerate. Their sort of young hotshot CEO, Michelle, is I guess, happens to live or has a house somewhere nearby. So it's convenient for them to abduct her as she's coming home from work one day. And
Well,
they,
I want to put a pin in that too, because I think that's a really interesting angle, especially as we're going through here in St. Louis, the idea of these data centers like literally sucking the water from rural
yeah,
areas. Like that idea is in this kind of corporatization of rural areas and corporate takeover of actual land,
right.
hunting the land.
The idea that, I mean, so Teddy's motivations are sort of slow rolled. He's got a lot of motivations, but one of the things that's touched on very early in the film's imagery and in the dialogue is the idea of ecological collapse. Right?
Hmm.
Teddy has a day-to-day job. It's revealed through the company that Michelle owns. I think they kind of hold that back a little bit, as
Yeah,
well as
yeah.
the connections to his mother's health. But one thing we get very early on is that Teddy loves bees. He raises honeybees as like his side hustle, and he talks about, colony collapse syndrome or disorder, and the overall effects of the Earth's degenerating ecology, and how companies, like Michelle's company here, I'm going to make sure that I have the right names here. Pausing for a second. Oxalith, what a great fake evil company name.
Yeah, it's pretty
Uh,
good.
Oxalith and other companies, multinationals around the world, are sort of broadly responsible for this accelerating ecological collapse. Um, so there's this idea that, yeah, like you say, that and there's an intimation of worker exploitation. There's a nice little scene where we go back to Teddy's workplace, where he's like in shipping and receiving for an Oxalith warehouse, and one of his coworkers is complaining about an OSHA violation, and she's not sure about whether she's going to report it because she needs the job so badly. So it's not heavy-handed, I don't think, but the film does touch on a lot of this sort of web of contemporary anxieties in American life, specifically in our sort of global corporatized world that we're in. And the turn, if you will, and that happens, I believe, before the title card drops, which just sort of makes it extra delicious, is that once Teddy has Michelle chained to a mattress in his basement in this very distressing situation, Michelle, when she wakes up from being drugged, she kind of goes through this wonderful little initial confusion about where the hell she is and what's happening. Fear when she realizes that there are two armed men sort of standing over her and she's chained to a mattress, to back to confusion once again when Teddy says, I know that you're really an Andromedan colonists come to Earth to enslave our species, and I want to negotiate the cessation of hostilities with your imperial flagship.
And this setup is so, as you say, delicious and draws you in so neatly that the trailers for this are really just the setup and then just
Right.
kind of flashes of the what will follow. And
Mm-hmm.
it is interesting because Save the Green, and I'm gonna try not to compare them because I literally just walked away from watching it. But Save the Green Planet, it doesn't feel like it's using this as a hook. Um, in the way that a Twilight Zone episode might use something like Pick Face People as an allegory.
Yeah.
This does feel allegorical to me. And these two characters feel sort of representative to me. And where you say it's not very heavy handed, I felt the hand, but
Mm-hmm.
I also felt the hand of a director who's really self assured and at this point can make something that is unmistakably his. And
Mm-hmm.
we will talk more about what that means as far as Lanthimos, but is also a really entertaining, dark comedy thriller. Like he really knows how to structure this in a way that like you're talking about, kind of parsimoniously doling out information in order to build the kind of emotional suspense necessary to keep you in this film, because Save the Green Planet is does not do that.
Uh,
I mean,
it's
Save
a
the
lot
Green
more
Planet,
hectic. I
yeah,
mean,
it is.
it's worth pointing out that this film was not written by Lanthimos. It was readapted by a writer named Will Tracy, who wrote for Succession. He's also probably most famous right now for having written The Menu,
Yeah.
another heavy-handed American
So I
allegory.
mean, I would say that its politics are as blunt and characters as representative as they are in The Menu, a film that is literally eat the rich.
Mhm.
but it still feels kind of right now. I don't know if
Well,
I'm gonna look
I
and
will
find it.
say
We're
I'm
allowed
gonna
to still watch movies, but
I am gonna push back on that a little bit because I think one of the things that I like about Begonia is how it complicates its allegory in interesting ways, if that makes sense.
we'll get to the end of the film, and
Well, no, not even that. Okay, I'm not even talking about the climactic twist, which I
I
think any
know,
sensible viewer is probably anticipating anyway.
right, even maybe from the trailer, but I do think the end of the film does put too fine a point on things. But
Okay.
let's wait because I want to talk about the characterization and what is specific about these people
Hmm.
and the information that you get about Emma Stone's character. While you don't get a lot of it, you at least get behavior, right? And I
Hmm.
absolutely love the way you described it. You wrote a long-ish review.
Hmm.
You've written longer, certainly, but a really great review, I will say, about Bugonia. And I'm looking for the how did you describe her? Um,
Heather.
oh, okay. So I mean, the way that you describe her and talking about keeping the sympathies off balance and the way that, yes, we have a woman who is boned and head shaved. And that's important.
Yeah.
Head shaved so that she cannot communicate with her alien
And
elders.
slathered in antihistamine cream for
Antihistamine
reasons that
because
I'm a
their
little unclear
nervous
of.
systems are completely different than
Oh
ours.
yeah.
But a narcissistic buzzword spouting CEO, I think there's something later where you talk about um, how it feels like she is actually wearing the perfect skin suit. Well, you would choose that if you're an alien because she is, you said intonations about like labor issues, or
Hmm.
even as we find out, Teddy's mother
Hmm.
is dying because she was a part of this clinical trial. And that puts a really interesting balance again in your sympathies or against your sympathies because you think maybe he's right, maybe he's onto something. This is a Yorgos Lanthimos movie. Anything can happen.
Hmm.
He's absolutely insane. This is QAnon bullshit. And also, what a wild pathology to give someone who is just doing an act of revenge.
Right. And it becomes, again, because it's Lanthimos, he doesn't necessarily give us a clear answer here, but it creates this intriguing chicken or egg situation. Is the pressures of all these justifiable grievances that Teddy has against this company, against corporatism and this company and Michelle specifically, is that something that fed into this brain rat pathology that's consumed him, these internet conspiracies? Or did the internet conspiracies create a situation where this became a feasible project for him? I think Lanthimos is playing it coy in exactly the right way, in a way that I feel like the overall thrust is we're supposed to sympathize with Teddy, right? But he does have these like nothing he's saying outside of the reality. Like there's a reality that he and Michelle could agree on, which is that his mother was sickened by their companies. His mother has been like put into an irreversible coma, played
And
by
she is
Alicia
played
Silverstone.
by Alicia Silverstone, who we talked about after the screening. May or may not allegedly be an anti-vaxxer. I don't know. Look, I'm just
she's
saying things.
she is an actress who I think Yorgos has used in a few of his films now, and she's when she appears,
Yeah.
she's I usually like her a lot, but she also makes a lot of Drek, like VOD Drek. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Is she a good
She-
actress? I'm not sure.
She's good in this. She
She's
has,
good in this.
yeah, one scene
She's
where
good in
she's
Killing of a
not
Sacred
in a
Deer too.
coma.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. But
But
there are a few like Fellini-esque, I call them Fellini-esque dream sequences because you get
yeah,
8.5 floating
yeah, you
thing.
get that. Yeah, that 8.5 homage is
Um,
nice.
and I think it's, we've talked about the two of them, but I really want to talk about the third leg of all this, the third leg. Ugh.
Yeah,
His-
Cousin Don. Yeah,
and this really great performance by Aiden Dilby. Is that how you would say it?
Delbus. I thought.
Delbus,
Yeah, who's an autistic actor.
Delvis. Yeah, it came
Uh,
up like in this circle of autistic acting organization and did a bunch of productions, and that's sort of like in the text of this too. I I kind of struggled with it at first because like why that, but then the film kind of gets into cycles of abuse. And
Mhm.
that to me is really interesting. And if you feel sympathetic for anyone, it's him. And because he seems to be working so against himself in this and the way he's been kind of brainwashed into doing this thing just because he has this, familial relationship with this person. And by this point, as you start to learn as film goes on, the entire family is dead for like some reason. All right,
Mhm.
here we go,
Well,
team.
but I do wanna make a point here about Don specifically,
Go ahead. Go. Yes, because I wanted to talk
which
more.
is that he's unambiguously presented as sort of the human heart in this triad, right?
Sure.
It's not exclusively a three-hander, but it's for long stretches of this movie, it's a three-hander. And
Yeah.
Don is sort of presented as the conscience or human heart. But I think saying that he's been brainwashed is not correct because if you put him under pressure, he couldn't articulate all the details of the Andromedan conspiracy the way that Teddy can. He is going along for one reason, because he loves Teddy, and he
I
he he thinks that Teddy is being straight with him and has his interests at heart. I think that's very
in
important to
which
say.
Teddy probably believes he is too, right?
Yeah, Teddy is
But
100% earnest in his love for Don. It's just that
I
he has
I
the
don't
brain
know
rot.
that Teddy isn't using that emotional link, like,
That's what's
as a,
tricky about it, right?
yeah, as a
Does he
way
love
to
Don?
get
I
him to
think
do,
so. But is
yeah,
he being manipulative too? Yeah, probably. He
and
convinces him to castrate himself. I mean, that's the kind of movie we're in.
really, really wild stuff.
Yeah.
For me, the the sexual politics of this are way more interesting in their ambiguity. Maybe
Mhm.
I'm someone who doesn't want to get preached at. I mean, this is something I talk about all the time. So when you put like, the ecological stuff and you start talking about conspiracy theorists and the way they work now and
Mhm.
corporatization of politics, because it is so present in my mind, I'm like, let's come on,
Mhm.
let's not get too obvious with it. But for me, it's the psychosexual politics of the four
Mhm.
people who speak in this film. The kind of implicit stuff about gender with Michelle,
Mhm.
who is a powerful woman and uses that. She actually figures out what's going on very quickly and has
Mhm.
a very quick response, as any CEO of a major pharmaceutical company might.
Mhm.
And she's interesting, kind of colored by Elizabeth Holmes, but is not like a kind of caricature of her. But there are things kind of borrowed from her. Um,
Not the voice. I think.
right. But that she's, stripped to her underwear and kind of defeminized is really interesting because there's a point that, she brings up and he's like, no, we're thinking two steps ahead of you. We already chemically castrated ourselves. And, but then there's a kind of glance at something earlier in the film when Teddy like embraces or kisses Dawn on the cheek and Dawn kind of shies away. But then later you find out that the fourth the sheriff figure who's played by, I know his name is Stavros.
Stavros Halkias. He
Thanks.
plays the sort of deputy he's creepily hanging around.
Yeah, an up and coming comedian. He's always in my Instagram reels.
Oh, okay.
He really only has two scenes, the
Mhm.
second of which is big.
Uh-huh.
And he reveals that, he sexually abused Teddy when he was his babysitter growing up.
Mhm.
And that to me reveals kind of so much about Teddy and the way that he operates, but not in a way that's like armchair psychologist Josh over here. It's just the kind of coloring and kind of fully fleshing out ideas of the cycle of power and cycle of abuse, I mean to say.
Well, and one thing I love about that second scene in particular. So the second scene in question, the meteor one, is where he actually shows up to the house in typical like captivity thriller fashion. The law enforcement representative shows up at the house at the most inopportune moment for the perpetrators, right? They've just had sort of a blow up with Michelle trying to get away from the dinner table, and they've had to put her back in the basement. and it's just him and Teddy. Don's keeping watch with her with a shotgun in the basement, and it's just her, Teddy and the deputy in his living room. And what I love about the psychology of that scene is that there's the first order of the scenario, which is that Teddy
The
is committing a
suspense.
crime
Yeah.
as a kidnapped woman in his basement, and he's trying to get this sheriff to get the fuck out. But he's not trying to be, but he's trying not to be overt about it. So he offers him a piece of cake and sits there and entertains his little pseudo confession, like his guilt trip about the quote unquote incident that happened. But there's also that second order where my heart is breaking a little bit for Teddy to watch him say over and over again, "Don't worry about it." He can't even look the sheriff in the eye. He's just doing this dismissive thing that a lot of victims do, where it's like, not a problem. It's in the past. Don't worry about it. You don't have to apologize. Let's move on. Like, it's such a
Like
psychologically,
denial avoidance thing, but he's
yeah,
actually
those,
avoiding it for,
yeah, those,
an immediate reason.
yeah, those two things layered together, I think, is what makes that scene so psychologically fascinating. And to me, that's Lanthimos. That's what he does really well, is that layering of reasons why people might do something, and yet at the same time, all his characters behave a little bit like aliens.
A little bit, yes. Well, and then to kind of avert the sheriff from the whatever's happening inside, he actually takes him outside to see the bees. And once Michelle starts breaking loose and all hell is about to break loose for Teddy, well, it's the moment Don shoots himself, right?
All
So
right.
that's true. So he bashes the sheriff's brains in with a shovel, and it's you can see where that's coming from. It's like
Yeah.
he absolutely did not need to do it that way and that violently. But it is the opportunity and that kind of explosion of violence that's been laying dormant in him seemingly for years.
Yeah, it's a paraphrase an old mystery science theater joke. Ooh, this is about something way bigger than super secret alien invasion shit.
That's so
There's
funny.
something
It's
personal
not
happening.
funny, but it's funny. But meanwhile, Teddy we've described this whole movie. Teddy is in this extreme depressive episode because he's chemically castrating himself. I mean, his hormones are imbalanced. He's in dire straits. I mean, he's under so much pressure too. And Michelle sees that the opportunity to manipulate Teddy,
Mhm.
as it turns out that she is doing. Uh,
Well, one thing I said in my review that I think is part of the, again, sort of part of the appeal of the scenario to me is that how Michelle and Teddy are almost like perfect foils, right? We have
mhm.
this on the one hand, and if you want to talk about like what do these characters quote unquote represent, we have on the one hand we have this sort of like CEO, girl bossy power player, an oligarch for lack of a better word, who has spent her whole life manipulating, controlling everyone around her. Um, and successfully apparently because she's this wonderkind and um is considered like one of the great up and coming CEOs.
On the cover of Time magazine.
Yeah. And on the other hand, we have Teddy, who is not only removed from her in terms of his experiences because he's not of the same class or culturally in the same place that she comes from, but there's also this idea because Teddy is believes something that's impossible. He's completely brought into the brain rot, as it were. there's no there's Michelle doesn't really have a tactic for that, right? That's part of like her conundrum is that she's trying different techniques that have worked for her before to get people to do what she wants. And her whole like matriarchal velvet glove management style just doesn't isn't how do you have a conversation with somebody, let alone negotiate your own hostage release when the person you're talking to doesn't believe the sky is blue? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
his contra reality, his non unreality is so intense that he's almost immune to her nonsense, if that makes sense.
and he is satisfied by her bullshit. He
Right.
is like instantly scoffs at her. Is like, I
I knew
expected
you
all
were gonna
this. I knew
say
you were
this.
going to say this.
Right.
That is absolutely like what makes him a great foil for her. However, Andrew,
Mm-hmm.
he's right.
Yeah, that's
So, okay, that's part of the tension too in the film is, no, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Am I going to start believing this actual serial killer psychopath, as it turns out, when Michelle finds his books and the documents of him doing human experiments to find out, if what the makeup of these.
And he's killed people apparently, not Andromedans, is what we
Yeah,
learn.
yeah, only two Andromedans.
His ratio is a little lean there.
Yeah, and I mean, if anything, Save the Green Planet is this kind of goofy science fiction with elements of extreme horror. This
Yeah.
is a horror movie to me. Like the way that this plays out,
And the
and
way it's shot too, I would argue.
yes,
It leans into the
claustrophobic.
claustrophobia.
Yeah, claustrophobic 4-3. He's still using his fisheye lenses that he started adopting, really, I think, around The Favorite or maybe Thicker Deer. I don't remember. But kind of distorted reality, but it's this chamber drama that is flecked by horror because the violence starts escalating, and ultimately it's like buckets of blood are being blown out everywhere. And she discovers that he's a serial killer. And then we discovered that because she discovers that and confronts him about the murder of Andromeda and say, yes, she is actually, not only is she a fucking alien, he thought she was like just linked to the main dude. She is the main dude.
Yeah, she's the Emperor. She's Empress Shadeen, or whatever you want to say.
So at that point, she says, all right, we'll do it. We'll do exactly what you say. You still even or kind of doubt what's happening, even though it's not making any logical sense. Okay, she's taking him to her office. She's setting him up there, right? It is not until she gets in that closet herself and Teddy has already accidentally exploded himself and beams herself up to the mothership that we discover, oh, okay. Yeah, my hunch was true. She is a fucking alien.
And a lot, we don't necessarily know that everything Teddy says is right, but enough of it is correct.
Like it.
Enough of it is correct that it's interesting. Like the hair, he shaved her hair for good reason because she would have used the hair to communicate.
He 3D printed a model of her ship, and it is exactly right.
Yeah.
So I kind of don't even want to play. At this point, I'm like, Yorgos, now what are you trying to say? You've been doing these like cutaway title cards showing the Earth getting more and more flat. And eventually the last one is the day of the lunar eclipse, and he's like it's a floating mountain with a flat surface, and the oceans are spilling over the sides.
The conspiracy brain rot slowly taking over reality and making Earth to match itself, right?
Yeah. I mean, the sequence is beautiful. It's very Poor Things in its design, which was kind of welcome to see, and such a change of pace from what's this kind of like sweaty, grungy basement movie to like intestinal. It's very Bjork. These intestinal braided costumes inside of like womb-like pattern-filled atmosphere, and the way she like gets her little crown on, and it's like those pieces of plastic you get mangoes in.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm talking about.
A little web. Yeah, styrofoam web. I mean, I love the disorientation of those final scenes where we learned that yes, she is in fact an alien empress and everything is true, but we're in these weird, very tactile sets.
It's very funny too, because
it's funny,
speaking a funny alien language, and it's all played with kind of the trademark Lanthimos deadpan too.
It reminds me a little bit of like French filmmaker and polygot Quentin Dupieux, I think his name is. He did Smoking Causes Coughing, and so far he just does weird, goofy movies that feel tonally a lot like the final scene. Although I was also reminded a little bit of like the tactile elements of Toby Hooper in Life Force and Invaders from Mars kind of pinged me a little bit in that final scene. But the real final scene is that montage, right? We have a montage of the Michelle, or the alien formerly known as Michelle, decides that humanity's time is done. and not without a little bit of like pang of sadness and nostalgia for the place that she's been colonizing for the last
If you were to
40 years. But
encapsulate the climax
Mhm.
of Save the Green Planet and the way Bugonia adapts it, Save the Green Planet is laser beams explodes Earth, right?
Yeah, we get
Save the
Death
Green
Stars.
Planet is a cloud of smoke covers a model of Earth, and
Mhm.
she puts her finger into it and pops it.
Mhm.
And it doesn't explode the planet. It seems to just, as she might have suggested earlier in the film when she comes out as an alien, uh, expires the species.
Yeah,
There's something innate in them that it's just their time to go.
yeah.
There's something kind of hopeful about how peaceful everything ends,
Well,
considering what she's saying and how it feels like the filmmaker's vision of contemporary times right now.
I think it's key. The adaptational change is key because I feel like the ecological angel is a strong part of Bugonia. And if it had just been Earth being destroyed, including all of its biology other than humans, I don't think that works as well. There's something about just snapping humanity away that and leaving the Earth to recover warms my
Literally
cold.
saving the green planet.
It
Like
it
Save the
warms
Green
my
Planet is called
cold.
Save the Green Planet, but they explode it.
Yeah,
This one saves it.
yeah, and it warms my cold materialist heart to see to see that. I don't know what that says about myself or the times we live in. That to me, humanity being snapped out of existence, or at least just killed where they stand as a whole, all 7 billion of us just being poofed away. To me, that reads as a happy ending. I don't
No,
know.
it does. I think the very like the decision making, and this is someone else's decision that they made,
Mm-hmm.
in 2003 in the film, the decision to make her an alien,
Mm-hmm.
validating Teddy feels provocative for provocation's sake, just because I don't know what else. Like, is he trying to say something? Usually, Lanthimos is really ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
But here, I think there's a fine point on it. And what I get from
Maybe
it,
other than human beings sucking, what is it?
I mean, if you do this twist and you put a fine point on the conspiracy theorist is right, like, why does he make the earth flat? It just feels like provocation to me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Earth flat thing sort of to me feels like, again, the fact that it's progressive. It goes over the course of 3 days and becomes more and more like the flat Earth unreality. To me,
I
that's
mean,
just signaling that the the fever dream of Teddy's world is encroaching on reality, and it's becoming in.
her earth is flat, her model earth is flat too.
Is that because the
It just
Andromedans
feels
actually
like,
aren't as sophisticated as we think they are? They still think the Earth is flat too.
well, no, I don't even know that he thinks the earth is flat. I think him saying, what if they're right? I mean, is kind of just it's not very interesting to me. I think he's like trying to put his thumb in the eye of his audience, which is progressive, liberal, but some leftists, I'm sure, art house film goers.
Maybe I find that it's more about not justifying Ted, not saying that, oh, Teddy was justified all along. It's not a sense of righteousness. It's more about the act itself, right? The idea that Michelle slash the Empress has come to the natural conclusion that humanity can't be saved, that whatever we've done to ourselves and the planet. I mean, Teddy isn't right in the sense that at least the things that Michelle says to him, we don't know if she's lying or not, but imply that maybe he has a little backwards, that the Andromedans are actually they are colonizing and they are in here in secret, but their motives are not overtly malevolent. They're trying to help us because we've had such a hard time managing our planet and ourselves. They're trying to save us from ourselves or something. It's not a completely malicious take them over and destroy them plan initially, but she
Because
makes
they've
the
been here
decision.
since the dinosaurs, and she
Right.
props them up as kind of perfect creatures, and they made a mistake that killed off the dinosaurs, right?
Right. So there's this idea that, which is I think is fascinating. I think it's interesting that Michelle's experience living as a human, instead of creating sympathy for humans and saying, "Oh, maybe they deserve a second and a third chance and whatever," she's just like, "You know what? This project is done. They're hopeless. I know. I've lived among them. Let's get rid of them." To me, that gesture,
Yeah, you're fine. He's
the
right.
gesture of hopelessness, the gesture of humanity not being worth the trouble anymore, to me is more important than any kind of like justification that Teddy was right all along. That's, to me, that's not the point. The point is the larger decision. And that, again, I love Stone as a performer. Particularly, I love since she's sort of been absorbed into Lanthimos's sort of players and become a key
And she
member.
seems, yeah, she seems as much of a creative force. They've been
Oh
working
yeah, yeah.
for a while, yeah,
Four
together.
features now in 7
Yeah.
years. I love that they found each other in Matchy Stuzzer's Freak. Like I like when that
Hmm.
happens between actor and filmmaker. And again, her performance is really incredible in this, just as it was in. It's almost like the opposite of Poor Things, where in Poor Things she's very not trying to hide that she doesn't belong in this body, and
Yeah,
she's
the innocent is the point, and
yeah.
she
And
doesn't know how to work the body.
this one is more, again, more in tune with like conspiracy theory, right? She's the reptinoid in a human
Mm.
suit. And again, I don't think the film ever tries to hide the possibility that Teddy might be right, because
No, not at all.
any
That's
savvy viewer
friendship.
is inspecting Stone's performance carefully for those seams, right? Like what would betray her as not entirely human. And of course the higher level joke is that no CEO is human.
Right, right, right.
That like this is a film being made in the Luigi era, right? Like
Yeah.
we're in design to not look at Michelle with sympathy. But I think what we are designed to do is maybe see that the Empress at the end has a point. That humanity is beyond redemption. And that's a
That,
very nihilistic thing, but I
yeah.
do think it's essential to the
But then,
film's point.
like I said, it does play hopefully. But
Yeah.
maybe that says more about
The
me.
birds and the bees will come back.
Sure.
Uh,
I mean, I
when
can
we're
kind of
gone.
buy it. It just really in the theater it really popped my little bubble. Um,
That's fair.
I'm still pretty positive on this. I have a lot of reservations as a voiced here. I kind of think he's gotten a little bit more obvious with each successive film, starting with Poor Things.
Mm-hmm.
But everything before that, I kind of love. I'm not going to
Yeah.
put this one into the bunker, but the world is ending in 3 days anyway, so it doesn't matter. Would you? Would you? I did see your heart on Letterbox. Is it that strong?
I don't think so. I think he had strong. As I've said, my philosophy with this permanent cinema project tends to be like, I really want. If we're gonna put a film in by a director, it has to be a banger. It says more about Paul Thomas Anderson that the last movie that he made just unequivocally went in there. It says more about his talent than anything. But I think when we're talking about, oh, do we put this Lanthimos in as opposed to another Lanthimos that maybe we feel stronger about, that does sort of hold my trigger finger a little bit.
Okay. Well,
But I don't know when we're
I've
next
just
going to
seen an
have the opportunity
article.
to talk about it.
I've just seen an article
Mhm.
that he is going to take a break from filmmaking. He has kind of been churning things out back to back.
Yeah,
I mean, he
fast.
had two in no, did he have two films last year?
Last year was
Well,
just Kinds of Kindness. Yeah.
Kinds of Kindness was 6 months after Poor Things, right? Right. So it fell back to back. Okay, then I see your let's not do it. But I'll say that you're going to use a vote. Is there one that you would put in?
Yes.
Is there one that
Easily.
you
Easily. Yeah.
is it Dogtooth?
I think it would have to be Dogtooth. Still my favorite of his. If you want to
I
talk about ambiguity that has about 1,000 different readings on it.
that's what I'm missing from his cinema now
Mm-hmm.
is Dogtooth. And I'm fine with him developing into other ideas, but I think he's gotten a little too literal, I guess.
Maybe. I think he's gotten aesthetically more interesting and
I don't even know
more willing
he's
to
gotten
experiment.
more experimental, yes. And he's
Yeah.
gotten bigger budgets. It seems like his vision is on the board. We're
Mhm.
seeing it. And he's gotten to the level of filmmaker where he can do that. And this is a small, Bugonia is a small film.
Yeah, as I said, it's mostly a three-hander, right?
Yeah.
Single
And it's
location.
mostly one setting too.
Yeah.
Um,
As opposed to sort of the expansive steampunky Terry Gilliamness of Poor
yeah,
Things, which is just
picaresque
you. Yeah,
poor thing.
you can see where the money went, right?
Yes. I Dogtooth isn't my favorite. My favorite is The Favorite.
Yeah, I kind of figured that would be yours.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. For me, it's a
I don't know if I want
probably
to use a vote to put it in though. I don't know that I love him, but I don't know that I love him that much. Um next time next week. So our scheduling got a little weird. We had a guest who got a little under the weather. They're going to come back and their pick that will I'm not going to say what it is or who it is, but it's also like a
take up canon. Take up
yeah,
canon. Yeah.
yeah. It was a low hanging fruit pick for them. I don't know that they did that intentionally though. But so that'll happen in the near future. But next time we'll talk about Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. I saw it. Have you seen it yet? I'm unclear.
It's not coming out till next weekend.
We were going to talk about it last week. Schedule got weird, but it's not our fault. I've seen articles about Netflix kind of dumping stuff randomly, which is
Who
par for the
knows?
course when talking
Yeah.
about Netflix, but it will be on Netflix next week. Begonia is also coming out theatrically next week, this week, because we're
Yes.
recording on Sunday, right?
Yeah. It'll
And
be out on Halloween in St. Louis. Yes.
these are good Halloween movies.
Yeah. I'll give it
Well,
that. It's a great Halloween movie.
I will say that this is a good movie, and the other one is a Halloween movie. Anyway,
Okay.
anyway, do you have one more thing, Andrew?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead because I
You
forgot
need
what mine
time.
was.
You
I
need time.
forgot. Yeah.
Um, so let me give a little background about what I'm going to be picking. So I've recently started reading this is not my thing, but this is why I'm giving my thing.
Okay.
Um, recently started reading what are called the Hedge Knight novellas by George R. R. Martin, which are the sort of accessory series to Game of Thrones, the Song of Ice and Fire series. They're very short. They're a series of three novellas. They're about just a wandering knight, hence the title, The Hedge Knight, and his squire wandering the seven kingdoms of Westeros doing things. Very, very different from Game of Thrones, very more sort of chivalric romance, but in the sort of grounded Game of Thrones universe. I'm enjoying them a lot. But I heard recently through I think it was maybe a Comic Con type panel that they did about the show. So they're adapting these novellas to a show that's premiering in January on HBO, into like short form miniseries. Um, and one of the things I heard was that Martin was talking about the influence of the 1953 adaptation of Sir Walter Scott's novel Ivanhoe on him as a young man, and how important that film was specifically for his Hedge Knight series. So hearing that, it was not a film I had seen before, so I went and sought it out, and I really enjoyed it. This is a 1953 film directed by David Thorpe. I think it's the most famous film he directed, starring Richard Taylor, Joan Fontaine, Elizabeth Taylor, Guy Rolfe as evil Prince John. It's a very sort of old school Technicolor mid-century American epic, but done very well with a lot of narrative nuance for a film of this type. It's a sort of classic chivalric romance. It's a little odd in the sense that like Robin Hood is in it, but he's like a third tier character, which is kind of interesting. The story is primarily, if you're not familiar with Scott's novel, it's primarily about a knight named, I believe, Philip of Ivanhoe, who goes on the Crusades with King Richard and then comes back and finds that King Richard has been being held in Austria by nefarious actors. And most of the story is about him trying to pull together enough of a ransom to get King Richard out of bondage and back to England and his proper place on the throne. But it happens in sort of that mythic, pseudo-historical, pseudo-mythic time period. Robin Hood is there. Prince John is evil and sniveling. The Saxons are there, being kind of the oppressed minority that are hanging on versus the Norman lords and so forth. It's a good story. What I think is remarkable about it is two things. It has some really good set pieces in it, particularly the first and second act. The first act is basically a jousting tournament. And again, 1950s Hollywood. So this is all done. Humongous sets have been built. Thousands of extras have been hired. It's all very colorful,
The real,
beautiful.
real.
Yeah,
They are
yeah,
really trying to kill each other.
yeah. Real. It's the knights look cool. It's just a cool. We don't see jousting movies nowadays, and so it's a cool jousting sequence. And then the second act is a castle siege, which I am 150% convinced that Peter Jackson took as a major influence for the Siege of Helm Deep into its towers because it has a lot of
Oh,
similarities.
yeah.
Um, and
A
it's a
lot of
very
orcs
cool,
in that one.
yeah,
Like,
it's a very cool,
okay.
exciting castle siege where they're sieging this old Norman castle.
Look, you've talked a lot about this film right now, and I have yet to hear you tell me about Liz Taylor in it.
So Liz Taylor is the other. So one thing I was gonna say, there's two reasons to watch the movie.
So I've
One is the
never
cool
seen
set
it, but I've
pieces.
seen her wearing this like veil hooded
Yeah.
thing.
So one of the exciting things about Scott's novel, it's sort of a lot of people view it as sort of a lad's own adventure, chivalric romance, but it is a fascinating work. Scott was a very serious historian and wanted to use a lot of historical material in his novel, mainly filtered through the historiography of people who were maybe not the best historians from the 17th and 18th centuries. But he took it seriously. And one of the things he tried to convey was the tension between Normans and Saxons in Britain in the 12th century, but also, interestingly enough, the tensions between Christians and Jews in Britain, which hadn't really been discussed a lot in historical fiction. Um, in the film, 20 to 21-ish-year-old Liz Taylor plays the daughter of a Hebrew patriarch who's living in England after having fled somewhere in Central Europe. I think they said they may have come from the Holy Roman Empire, but she's sort of like the third angle of a love triangle between Ivanhoe and the Lady Rowena, and Liz Taylor playing this sort of um, a literal Jewish princess, like in the film. She's considered like the daughter of the patriarch and is well versed in a lot of skills that the Christian women's don't have, like medicine and herbalism and so forth. And it's played really beautifully. I really like the way the love triangle plays out. There's no melodrama, there's no screeching. There's a lot of like Rowena and Rebecca are sort of set up as rivals initially for Ivanhoe's attention, but they get along really well, and they sort of see where the other one is coming from. There's a lot of interesting stuff about where the Jewish community in Britain medieval period fit into British society and their role. It's just in their position is sort of fascinating. But Liz Taylor, I mean, 21 year
She's
olds Liz Taylor, it looks like a different species than everybody around her. It's kind of funny that like Joan Fontaine is in this as the primary romantic interest. And
man,
Joan Fontaine is a glamorous, beautiful movie star, but
man.
she looks like plain Jane next to 21-year-old Liz Taylor. It's almost unreal.
Who is always shimmery and shiny,
Yeah,
even
she
as
just
Martha.
yeah, she looks stunning in this. So, and she's a lot of fun. She's for 21-year-old, she's holding her own against all these other people. And I really enjoyed it. It's not what I would call a lost masterpiece or anything, but I do think it's a film that's sort of not talked about much anymore, and it's a really solid mid-century medieval epic.
Very cool. Where
Available
where
pretty
did
much
you watch
ever.
that?
I watched it on Amazon. Like it cost like $3 to rent. It's pretty much widely
Rental.
available, yeah, for rental.
Very cool. And where can people rent you
You can find me at thetakeup.com.
for free? We're
Yeah, for
there.
free.
You
You want
just type in an address.
no rental price.
Well, follow us on social media at the Take Up STL.
Hmm.
I will see your old school Hollywood picture with another old school Hollywood picture, except I'm
Ooh.
going even earlier.
Mm.
All right, this is a kind of also a circuitous route.
Hmm.
Um,
I like hearing about this. Why
our
did you watch something that you didn't think you would watch? Yeah.
our friend Katie Carter,
Hmm.
we went to, well, we were both at the Alamo Draft House does Dismember the Alamo, which is a marathon of horror movies. I'm not going to talk about what a disastrous time that was.
Ooh.
I'm
Okay.
not going to
Sorry.
talk about that. And
I'm
anyway,
sorry.
however, we were talking about Katie is a programmer for Arcada and Cinnamon and Bar, and every first Monday she has Forbidden Hollywood, which is pre-code classics.
Mhm.
And she's been on this podcast and talking us through the code and
Her knowledge and taste are pretty much unparalleled. Yeah.
she's great. She's great, and she refuses to return. And I know she's listening to this. But her next film is November 3rd. It's called Smarty. It's starring Joan Blondell, who is always just like
Ooh,
perfect.
yeah.
So I'm expecting to go to that one. It's November 3rd. You get tickets at arkadencinema.com. Anyway, but that's not what I'm asking. She said, man, I was really hoping that they would show an older film. I'm like, Katie, this is the third one I've done in St. Louis. It wasn't going to happen, but they did show us the oldest film they showed us was Herschel Gordon Lewis's Wizard of Gore,
Oof. Yeah.
which looking at the Reddit went down like a lead balloon. I loved it. So whatever.
Mhm.
Anyway, I asked her, well, what should I watch? Because we both felt, I won't speak for Katie. Oh my God. I'm going to get in so much trouble. It's a good thing no one listens to this. Um, what should I supplement? And she said she didn't get back to me fast enough for me to have made a decision in that I would actually finally go back and do her October program that she had at the Arkaden, which was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the Frederick March one, directed by Ruben Mamoulian from 1933, which I had never seen, but was very aware of the performance and the special effects that were done. I
Mhm.
didn't I didn't quite understand what a radical movie this would be, and that it's really experimental in its camera work and therefore its perspective and its ideas on sexuality and sexual abuse and what a fucking like incredible performances this is filled with. And it's a really fantastic film. It's streaming on Amazon Prime, but of course, because I get special interests, I have watched quite a few Universal horror films. I'm filling in some gaps that I have there, but I'm also watching sequels. Like Son of Frankenstein is an absolute banger that I was unaware of was an absolute
No, I've never
banger.
seen it. Yeah.
And it is so informed by German expressionism. It kind of looks like Caligari, but it's from 1939 Universal Pictures.
Okay, so it is a true Universal
It
sequel
is a
to the
direct
Frank
sequel.
to the James Whale films.
The
Okay.
lead of the film was played by Basil Rathbone, and he is literally Victor Frankenstein's son.
Oh, okay.
But Bela Lugosi's in it, playing Igor, who's been waiting in the wings. Was supposed. I'm not even going to get into all of it, but he's so great in that film too.
I wonder if
And
that was an inspiration for Young Frankenstein.
it is so much a young. I did not know how much of an inspiration it was from this wooden arm bit that Kenneth Mars does as the inspector.
Yeah.
Is literally just that Son of Frankenstein.
Oh, that's incredible.
And it's equally exciting whenever he uses it, does fun stuff with it. Her actual recommendation, see, so circuitous, was Murders in the Zoo, which is like just bananas. And all of
What
these,
is that?
this is from 1932. It is a film. Hold on. Oh, I haven't logged it yet. What an idiot. I don't know the director very well. It's Edward Sutherland. It's kind of a goofy murder movie. It's about a very rich man who brings over like a group of new animals for a zoo, but he's also a complete psychopath and like stages all of these murders to look like they were done by snakes or wolves. It's kind of a
Whoa.
goofy 60-minute ride, but it's a lot of fun. The key thing for me is that Charles Ruggles is in it. He plays the uncle in Bringing Up Baby,
Mhm.
who comes in third act and kind of steals the show a bit. And he's always just kind of really funny, buttoned up guy, but he plays an alcoholic in this one. And he does all this great double speak. That's a lot of fun. But it's also got a young Randolph Scott in there, so
Ooh,
a lot of
yeah.
a lot to look at. But it's a wacky, fun movie. But anyway, that's my recommendation. Is really actually Katie Carter, at Katie L Carter, new Substack. She's written about going to Venice, and talks about the Venice Film Festival, and then Katie at the movies. My real one more thing is Katie Carter. Anyway,
Some ways a better critic than we are because she's actually flying around to festivals and seeing things and
she's
writing about them
incredible.
really relentlessly.
She's so mad at me for talking about her right now.
Yep.
She's so embarrassed. Anyway, she's great. So go to Forbidden Hollywood too at the Arcadin on November 3rd. Woo! Anyway, that was a lot of talking. This is a big episode for little
Yeah.
Bugonia. And then
And
next
we're doing GDT next week.
GDT, talking more Frankenstein. Can't wait.
You can never have enough Frankenstein.
I guess. Until then, I'm going to thank Ethan Tarantella, helping produce and editing the show. Kayla McCullough with social media, theme music by AMP. And until next time, last night they blew up the chicken man in Philly that night. Springsteen.
Good Lord.
Stuck in there. Bye.